Hello everyone and welcome to our Wisdom Wednesday for this week. So remember, with our Wisdom Wednesday, this is just a generalized spiritual discussion based on the energies that we're working with for this week. Remember, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns about what I'm talking about, feel free to put it in the comments. And if you do have another spiritual question that doesn't really go with our topic, then please feel free to put it, then go to my website and you can actually go to my contact form and you can type your question. I will do my very best to get back to you as soon as possible. So for today, I'm really excited to talk about the 8 words to help you out of judgment. And we're actually just going to dive right into those words, and then I'm going to explain how those words can be so powerful and so useful, even though it's really only 8 words. So the words that you can use to help yourself get out of that judgment is, do I want to be right or happy? That's it. 8 simple words. Do I want to be right or happy? And those 8 words right there can help us tremendously. Now, why is it that these 8 words can help us so much? And it's really simple because what you're doing is something that we don't normally do. And we're questioning our egoic thoughts. So when we have a judgment about someone, maybe it's about their outfit, maybe it's about their behavior choice, maybe it's just about something in general, or just maybe it's a judgment about a situation. We have this tendency not to question those thoughts. We instead love to just say, yep, that's the thought, nothing else to it, right? And we have to remember that if we decide and say, okay, my judgment is right. That's it. This judgment is the only thing that's there. I'm only paying attention to that judgment. Then you get the grand prize of being right about that judgment. So, and I'm going to give you a real world example, and it happened today. So this is why I love working with spirit, because not only am I teaching you, I am being taught what I need to learn as well. So that's why I love doing the work that I do. And so the real world example that I want to give to you is when I was driving today. I was driving home, and there was a railroad track, and there was a train coming, okay? And, the little bars went down, the lights were flashing, it was dinging, doing the whole thing. And I was like, ugh, a train. Now, immediately, my judgment of the situation, which was from the past, which is a good majority of the time where our judgments come from, not all the time, but a good majority, was, oh, this train is going to take forever, and I'm going to be sitting here even longer. Oh, not wanting to do there. And then, all of a sudden, hey, Trudy, thanks for joining, thanks for being here. All of a sudden, I thought to myself, well, do I want to be right about that, or do I want to be happy? Well, I want to be happy. That's what I want. I want happiness. So I have to be willing to let go of that judgment that says this is going to be a super long train. And what do you know? I let that go. I said, oh, thanks so much. So I said, Spirit, I'm willing to let this go. I don't know how long this train is going to be. I don't know about it. I have no reason to think that it will be any longer than any other train. And what do you know? It was a very short train, maybe 5-6 cars. That was it. Opened up, was able to drive through. Maybe took a whole 4 or 5 minutes to pass. So right there, I was willing to let go of that judgment. I wasn't willing to keep it. I was willing to say, I do not know what this means, and I want happiness. Now, that doesn't mean just because I'm saying, well, I want happiness, that's why there were only 5 cars on that train or 4 cars on that train. That's not why that situation unfolded the way that it did. The situation unfolded the way that it did because I was willing to let go of my preconceived notion of what I thought and what I thought I knew. And I was willing to let go of that judgment instead of keeping it locked in my mind and being like, well, this is just the way that it is and it just sucks, but oh well, here's how the ego uses it is what it is. The ego will say, it just is what it is. And when the ego says it is what it is, what it's really saying is my judgment and my story about this is the only way that I can view it, and therefore is the only right way to view this. Where spirit, on the other hand, when it says, accept what is, or it is what it is, spirit is saying it's just an experience. It's nothing more than an experience that you are currently going through, and you have the power to choose how the rest of that experience is going to go for you by either siding with ego and the judgmental story that you have about it, whatever that story may be. And, let's take another example. Let's take more of a relationship example. Even though we are in relationship with everything, let's take a more interpersonal relationship. So let's say you have a really good friend, okay? They're an awesome friend. You really like being around them. They do have this one little flaw, though. They're late for everything. You're always constantly telling them, like, you need to be here at 5 and the party really doesn't start until 7, but if you tell them 7, they won't show up until 9, and you want them there, on time, so you tell them 2 hours beforehand. Right there, we have to stop ourselves. Now, all the evidence in the world is going to tell you your friend is always late. That's what the evidence is going to tell you. The world you see is going, and all of your past is going to be telling you, you have to tell them, to be there 2 hours early. Otherwise, they're just not going to be on time because of the story and the judgment that you have based on the past. And what we have to be willing to do is let go of that story and say, okay, do I want to be right that my friend is always late, that they're never on time, that I have to tell them 2 hours beforehand? Or do I want to be happy, which means I'm willing to let go of that judgment and allow the situation to unfold as it's going to, regardless if she's on time or he's on time or they're on time. It doesn't matter. Either you want your judgment or you want happiness. It's not, and this is what my mom, my brother, and I'm sure my dad has also said is, well, I want to be right. Okay, then here's what I'll tell you about being right. So you want to be right instead of happy. Then you get to have the grand prize of seeing that exact situation that you already have up here play out right in front of you. That's what you get. You want to be right? Absolutely fine. Just understand that in choosing wanting to be right about your judgment, wanting to be right about your story, that's what you are going to experience. Because spirit cannot give you another way of experiencing it because you've already pretty much locked it into your mind and said, this is the only way. This is what's going to occur. Nothing. Where's there room for spirit? There is none. We have to start leaving room for spirit. And that's how these 8 words can really start to help you to choose happiness instead of choosing being right. So let's take another example. Let's just say that you have like 5 errands you have to run before, your kids get home from school. Okay? So you have 5 errands and these are things like you have to do. So let's say you're at your last errand. It's the bank. You chose the bank last because you already have a story up here that says, oh my God, the bank takes forever. And I'm going to do it last. So you go, you do it last, right? And you're standing there and oh my God, of course, here comes the story. There's a line of people a mile long. There's only one person. There's only one teller. And you are automatically like, the story is already starting. You're already like, I knew this was going to take forever. I knew this was going to be this way, and it's always this way. And you start this whole little story of judgment about how this always happens, how you aren't lucky, how things just don't work out for you. You're already starting this story. We have to stop ourselves in that moment. We got to be like, wait a minute. Do I want to be right about this particular situation, this particular event, and the way that it is, and the way I am perceiving it is unfolding? Or do I want to be happy instead? Do I want to actively choose happiness instead? So if we actively want to choose that happiness, again, okay, this is going to take exactly the amount of time that it's going to take. Doesn't matter what it is. I want happiness. I want to choose happiness. And that doesn't mean that another teller is going to open up and, you're going to get to go. Doesn't mean that. It means in consciousness, you are saying, I don't want this story. I don't want this perceptual view that I have. I want to see things differently. I am willing to let this go so that a new perceptual view can be given to me. A lot of times we like to try to use spiritual tools to get what we think we want. And that's what we have to begin stepping away from and reeling it back in, because we don't know what's best. In truth, we really don't. We have a perceptual view of what we think would be best. So we have to say, okay, instead of me getting my way, getting what I think I want, being right, I just want to be happy. And universe, I don't know what happiness is, but I'm willing to be taught. Teach me what happiness is. And perhaps another teller will open up. Perhaps something miraculous like that will happen, or the line, 4 people will get out of line and you just get to be next. We don't know what the happy outcome is, but Spirit does. Spirit knows what that happy outcome is. So do you want to trust that Spirit has your highest and best good, or are you still going to trust in your ego to have your highest and best good? Because let's be honest, our ego is just our own intelligence turned against us. It's our own intelligence facilitating the idea of separation, that we could be separate from our source. Not only separate from our source, separate from love, separate from joy, separate from anything, any of our needs being met. So we can, of course, go into that and it can be facilitated, and that's what we'll see. Or we can choose to go with love. We can choose to go with happiness. And so another way of looking at this, instead of maybe saying, do I want to be right or do I want to be happy? Do I want fear or do I want love? Which one? What am I more willing to focus on? And that's all that it takes. And that's why these 8 words are so simple. And the ego says, oh, that's too simple. Therefore, I can't use it because it's just too easy. That's what spirituality is. Spirituality is supposed to be easy. It's not supposed to be hard. It's not supposed to be complex. It's not supposed to take you 45 minutes. It is there to facilitate and help you through daily life. My dear friend, Deborah Bowen, the Inner Queen Coach, I will never forget her intro to a podcast that she used to do with our mutual friend, Dia of Ori's Oasis, where Debbie said, if it's not practical, it's not spiritual. And that cannot be more true. This is a practical tool. This is something that you can use in your day-to-day life as you go throughout the day. Do I want to be right or do I want to be happy? I want to be happy. So I must be willing, and yes, I did use the word must. I must be willing to let that story go. I must be willing to forgive that story, release that story, give it over to the angels, my guides, higher power, whatever works for you. There must be a willingness to do so, and a willingness to be led towards what happiness is. And that doesn't mean, again, you're not going to necessarily know what that happiness is or what that happy outcome is going to look like. You're just excited to see that happy outcome. You know it's coming. You just don't know what it is. And right there, that's a big key for all of us, is let me accept a happy outcome that maybe doesn't fit my narrative or maybe doesn't fit my story. And that's okay. There was a beautiful line that Robin Duncan said, and she's a teacher of A Course in Miracles, and it basically is, if Spirit gives you the recipe for lemon cake, write it down. because it's giving it to you for a reason. We don't know the reason. We may be asking, how am I going to get my plumbing fixed? And you get a recipe for a lemon cake and you're like, how is this going to help? Well, little did you know, making that lemon cake was actually the plumber's favorite meal or favorite dessert that his grandma made him. And in making it, he was like, you know what? This cake reminds me so much of my grandma. I'm going to give you a 50% discount. We don't know. We have no idea, but we just have to be willing. That's all it takes, is a willingness. So what's more important, your pride or spirit? What's going to be more important to you? You being right? Okay, great, you're right. Congratulations. What did that do for you? And my favorite saying, how's that working out for you, being right? How's that working out? That working out well? Having fun with that? Or are you like, oh, it's right again. Wow. And, you keep on coming up against these, what could we say? These opportunities for growth that are rising up. And instead of seeing them as those opportunities, you are instead telling yourself a narrative, telling yourself a story about how it's just not working, how it never works out for you, how things never work for you. There's your story. And guess what? You get to be right about that. Spirit says, okay, that's the story you want. I have another much happier story for you if you just let your story go. That's all you have to do. Just let it go, release it. So this is where I think a lot of people, including myself, had a hard time with, well, then how do I let go of my judgment? What does letting go of my judgment look like? And it can be as simple as this, okay? And you don't have to use these words. You could, of course, use other words if you so choose. Words that feel better to you or more in alignment with where you are on your journey. But all you could say is, spirit or guides, angels, higher power, God, universe. I am really tempted to be right about my current story, how the bank line isn't going to move, or how this train is going to take forever, or how nothing is ever working for me. I'm really tempted to dig into that story. However, I'm willing to see this differently. I'm willing to forgive myself for believing this story. Simple, easy, that's it. Or you could do some EFT tapping if you feel like that would help you. And just be like, okay, I am willing to let this judgment go. I want happiness instead of guilt or blame or shame or the old story. I'm ready for something more. I'm ready for something better. Again, simple, easy, something you can do. And of course, you don't have to tap right there where I did. You could just tap somewhere inconspicuous. Maybe you're just standing there in line and you're just like, it just looks like you're tapping. That's it. You're just kind of tapping that little spot, just being like, I'm willing. You don't have to say it out loud. Just, I'm willing to let this judgment go. I want to be happy. I don't want to be right about this narrative or about this story. I want happiness. That's it. It's simple. It's easy. It's practical. It's something you can use in your day-to-day life if you're willing to. And it's just asking yourself, questioning that thought. Do I want to be right about my friend being late, about this line going forever? What do I want? Do I want to be happy? Which Spirit says, I always have a better outcome for you. Always. You may not be aware of it, but I always have a better outcome for you. Better than you could ever imagine. More prosperous than you could ever imagine. And, here's another great example of that just today. I was taking my brother to work today, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to go this way. Just my own decision. I was like, I'm going to go this way. And traffic had already seemed really heavy. And so already the narrative's starting. Okay. The narrative had already started in my head. Wow, traffic's getting really heavy, it looks like. I go down the street and what do you know? The road that we normally take to get onto the highway blocked off. And in that moment, I thought to myself, I was like, oh man, this isn't good. And not only that, well, that's just my luck. And I stopped myself in my head and I was like, wait a minute. Do I want to be right that this is my luck for today, that I'm just going to always run into traffic jams and this? No, I want to be happy. And I don't know what that happy outcome looks like, but I'm willing to be shown. So I turned around, went back the opposite way, got him to work, plenty of time. He was able to go inside and like and he got a free breakfast because we got there right when the person was coming with the breakfast for the meeting that he had to be at. So it worked out for him. The drive back was easy and effortless. The accident was already cleared up by the time I was headed back. Everything just flowed very easy. So he got a happy outcome because he got to work on time and he got a free breakfast. I got a happy outcome because I was able to drive stress-free back home. And it all worked. All because I asked myself and stopped myself. I questioned, do I really want to be right about this story that this is my luck for today? No, I want to be happy. So I'm choosing happiness. I'm choosing to let go of that story. And even if I run into another, seemingly heavy traffic, do I want to be right or do I want to be happy? Well, I want to be happy. Spirit, you teach me about happiness. I don't know what that looks like, but I'm willing. I want to let go of this story. So that's how those 8 words can really be of use to you, is choosing. And the ego is going to start throwing things at you. It'll throw out, some old stories, some old judgments that you had about particular people and being like, what about this one? What about this one? And it's not doing it as a test. The ego does it because it understands that you are no longer playing its game as actively as you were, and it wants you to, continuously play the game, because if you play the game, then you're listening to it. And it's thrilled. It's like, good, they're listening. Okay, great, we're all set. However, if we don't start listening, it throws a temper tantrum. Again, not that it has any real power, not that it even really has the ability to throw a temper tantrum. It just seems like it does because it's trying to get our attention. So it's going to start throwing stuff out there to get our attention and be like, oh, see, look, there's a look, heavy traffic. Oh, look, now there's an accident. Oh, look, now there's more heavy traffic. Oh, look, you chose the wrong way to go. Look, things aren't looking too hot for you. Oh, look, there's a train now. Wow, things don't really seem to be looking good for you, do they? All a judgmental story. It's just an experience. Doesn't mean, do I want to be right about any of that? No, I don't want to be right. I want to be happy. And so everything gets cleared up. Again, not because, it's not a pat on the back from, the divine saying, good job, you wanted happiness. It's more of the divine saying, good, now I can finally give you what I've been waiting to give you, because you're actually making the choice for happiness instead of your judgment. I can't do anything. The divine says, I can't give you what you're not willing to accept, what you're not willing. And when I say willing to accept, it simply means the happiness. Either you're going to focus only on your judgment, or you're going to choose to let go of that judgment and focus on happiness, focus on things that bring you joy in whatever way, shape, or form. So that is our live for today. And I was just really excited to share this because of all the things that I got to learn from this today. And that's what like I said, I love working with spirit, because the moment that something comes to me to talk about, I get to go through that experience so that way I can have these real life examples to give to you. Because I'm not just sitting here in my room being like, okay, I'll practice this just in my room. I have to go out into the real world and I have to practice these things. And I can tell you that if you go out and you start practicing, you get these wonderful results. And it's so much better because you are able to really use it in a practical situation instead of like sitting in your room or just dealing with normal things. You're out, you're about, different experiences are appearing from you. They're not happening to you, they're happening from you in order to assist you on your own growth. So whatever I teach is what I'm learning as well. I'm not perfect at it. I mess up. There are times that I choose to be right about my judgment. Oh, that person who cut me off, they just must be in a real big hurry. Why am I placing that on them? I don't know if they're in a big hurry. I have no idea. Instead, I can just choose to be like, well, okay. I choose to forgive myself for placing that judgment that, well, they're in a really big hurry and they're doing that. Why do I need to make excuses for them? I don't need to make excuses. I can accept that, okay, they're going fast. I don't have to know why they're going fast. I don't have to create a story or have a judgment about why they're going faster than I am. Okay, you're going faster than I am. Or someone's not letting me in. God, they're such a jerk. Well, do I want to be right about that, or do I want to be happy? Well, I want to be happy. And so instead, I'm willing to let that, comment go. I'm willing to see them differently. And I'm willing to acknowledge that I can only be blessed by people. I don't know how this person's going to be a blessing to me, but I am so happy and appreciative that they are here to be that blessing to me in whatever way, shape, or form. And like I said, do I get it right all the time? Nope, not at all. I mess up, I forget, I go into judgment, I go into stories, and it's just about acknowledging it, letting it go, and realigning with happiness, choosing happiness. So I thank you for joining me. I thank you for being here, and I will see you all and talk to you all soon. Bye for now.